So when people begin to give altar calls, let me wait for you to write, because this one is going to be another one. When people begin to give altar calls, like if you are here to give your life to Christ, come out.
Now, Dr. Abel damina has kicked against altar calls, and he said so many things about this particular altar call in this video. So I just want us to watch this video in just a few minutes. Then when I come back, we'll talk about it. You know, I know that altar call is necessary for Christians, but what do I know? When I come back, we'll talk about it. Let's watch the video.
But the new birth is known by revelation. Don't miss that. The new birth is known by revelation. That's why when people begin to give altar calls, let me wait for you to write, because this one is going to be another one. When people begin to give altar calls, like if you are here to give your life to Christ, come out. Close your eye, lift your hand up. At the count of 3, the first hand to go up, eternal life is coming in now. 1, 2, 3. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Now come forward. Then if nobody comes out, you will now advance the altar call, because you cannot afford to fail in that altar call. You now change it to say, you are here. You once gave your life, but where you are now is not where you want to be. That's all of us now, including the pastor. Even the pastor is not where he's supposed to be. So all of us will come out to the altar. Have you had that kind of altar call before? The preacher doesn't want to fail in his altar call. And then if nobody comes out anywhere, you know deep down in your heart, you know. Then when he sees 1 or 2 people coming out, he says, if Christ come now, you know, there are only 2 that have come out. That's not a successful number. If Christ comes now, you know you will not make it. Deep inside you, you know. Come out. Another 4 will follow. This is altar call by force by fire. So put non-sons of God and sons of God will come out to the altar. You were never sure of salvation. So any new message just shakes you. Any new message throws you in doubt, because you were never sure. Nobody taught you. Nobody showed you. Nobody trained you to know that beyond feelings, when I believed the message of his death, burial, and resurrection, eternal life came on my inside. When he died, I died. When he was buried, I was buried. When he rose from the dead, I rose from the dead. I am a Hoshkea. The dead that could not keep Jesus down could not stop my regeneration. He went to hell that I may go to heaven. He was rejected, I am accepted. Oh, I feel like I'm teaching here. I'm today, by virtue of what Christ has done, I'm eternally saved. I'm not temporarily, I'm eternally saved. But you see, you have to be taught to know. So that way, no. If the preacher says, oh, it's not you, you just smile. And the reason is because the truth about the believer is that the believer is only known by the Spirit. So sometimes your experiences, and I will do a lot on experiences in this series a bit later, your experience might even deny you the reality of salvation. Sometimes your experience might even deny you the reality of salvation. And that's why knowledge is critical for salvation. So the new birth is a spiritual fact. It's a spiritual fact. And that's why the book of Acts does not record the truth about the new birth. The book of Acts, because it's a spiritual fact. So the book of Acts does not record the truth about, about the new birth. That's why in the book of Acts, it's only actions that are recorded. The new birth is not an action.
Okay, so you watched the video, but now let me now say something. See this particular preaching by Dr. Abel Damina, I am against it. You know, Dr. Abel Damina has been saying so many things in recent times, but you see, the things of God is something that you cannot use carnal mind or the eye of normal human being to judge. You know, like you heard what he said about altar calls. He gave his reasons, and I will do this video in two parts. Like I'm going to do the part 2 of this altar call because the video is going to be long if I want to talk about it in one video. You see what he said, that people will preach about other things, then they will now call people to come and give their life to Christ. You see, no matter what someone preached in a church, there must be an element of Christ in it. If I'm wrong, please correct me. No matter what a preacher is going to preach in a church, there must be an element of Jesus or God in that, because that's why we have church. Because it's difficult for you to found a church where they just come and talk about Nigeria and talk about, without involving God in it, or talk about marriage, or like he said in that video, without putting God in it. Because God is in everything. In Nigeria problem today, there is God in it. You cannot write off God and say God is not involved. In marriages, God ordained marriage himself. So if you preach about marriage in a church, at the end of the day, there should be element of God in it. There are godly marriages and there are worldly marriages that are failure and all that. So when someone comes to a church and talk about any other thing he talks about, that as long as it's in a church, there must be element of God in it. But if I am wrong, please drop a comment. Kindly drop a comment. Tell me what you think. But what do you think about this particular statement? Because altar calls are very important. It's a vital element of the church. You know, because people cannot just sit down and claim that they are born again. It's not just to calculate how many people that gave their life to Christ. It's the point. It's about the boldness to accept Christ publicly without being ashamed of him. Because so many people are ashamed to say they are born again. So many people can't raise their hands and say they want to give their life to Christ. For you to even be able to do that means there is something has happened to your mind, that you are trying to publicly accept God or accept Christ in public and lift up your hand and come. So calling for altar calls is a necessity in a church. I don't know why Abel Damina is saying that they have stopped it in their church. Well, if you stopped it in your church, does not mean that it's bad. And your excuses, if people can lift up their hands and they have not received Christ and they came out and they did the sinner's prayers, so why do you think if they sit down that something different will happen if they did not come out? There is something about that, raising up your hand and coming out boldly to receive Christ without being ashamed. It's not the way he explained it. Because this is what I'm talking about. Abel Damina is saying a lot of things in the pulpit. He's saying things that works against the church most of the times. And we have a lot of people defending him, because now people will come now and begin to talk about, using all kinds of logic to follow this. Yeah, this is bad. Trust me. How can you say giving your life to Christ, or maybe lifting up your hands to receive Christ, coming out on the altar calls and calling? No, this is wrong. The reason why I'm making all this video is for people that might get misled or get all these things wrong. Because if you follow it the way Dr. Abel Damina is talking about it, you get it wrong. Like I said, I'm going to make part 2 of this video, because the video is lengthy, so that we'll talk about it more. There are things he's saying that shouldn't be said in a church, that shouldn't be encouraged by a pastor. You understand? And people come and preach the hardship in the country. People are preaching mingles and everything. But whatever you do in life as a Christian, there must be an element of God in it. You have to add God. That's why we are Christians. We do things differently. It doesn't mean that we don't do things. It doesn't mean that we don't mingle. It doesn't mean that we don't marry. It doesn't mean that we're not feeling the hardship in the country. It doesn't mean that every other worldly person is facing that we Christians are not facing it. But the point is that we are going to involve God in our own. So if I come to church today and preach about finances, I am not preaching finances the regular way. I'm preaching godly, how to make money in godly way, teaching people how to make money in the fear of God. And if I say that, if some people are making money worldly, people are doing crimes and committing evil things to make money, you have the right to tell them to lift up their hands and come and give their life to Christ if they have done something wrong. I hope I'm making sense to people, please. Because telling them you preach this and in church, and they are telling people to lift up their hand and come. You know, the way he cuts all these things is very, very, very bad. And that's why most times I talk about it, because people are watching. And some people are applauding him and they are happy that Abel Damina is saying this. That's where they want to go now. Because people are looking for excuses to run away from church. First of all, he came about money, giving to church is fraud, and he started complaining again. He have said a lot of things. Talking about tattoos, when the Bible have said it in Leviticus chapter 19:28, that you cannot do all those things. But he's saying in which verse? He's saying in which verse? The whole Dr. Abel Damina is saying the people can draw tattoo. It's a matter of choice, and they're asking you in which verse. You see, all these teachings is something that calls for alarm, as far as I'm concerned. And I will not just keep quiet. I will keep talking about it in this channel, so that people will also dialogue with me, tell me what they think. I'm enjoying the conversation these days. People come out and I'm enjoying all the people subscribing, those commenting, those sharing. God bless you. I really appreciate your time. It's not easy to subscribe to my channel or watch these videos. We are trying as much as possible. We are together in this. We are trying to, sensitize our community for the benefit of for the benefit of God. Because what is happening now, if we are not careful, we will lose it. So I'm going to make a part 2 of this video because I don't want it to be too long. But drop a comment, tell me what you think about this particular one we just talked about now, this part 1. We're going to talk about the part 2. So when I come back, I'll see you in the next one. Remain blessed and bye.